let's take, we vote on this in 2012, you capture your $64 million thing, and now we're in 2014, okay? And the school board is thinking about going out and building a couple more elementary schools or doing something somewhere. So what's your best professional guesstimate, standing here in front of us tonight, as to how much money would then be available?
In 2014, if,
Yes, sir.
if 62 million were issued?
No. 18 million,
18 million.
okay?
I would really have to run numbers to show that, but I would think it would be closer to the year 2018.
I thought you said that would be too soon when you ran the numbers.
Well, 2020 was, assuming that $40 million was issued
Right,
in 2012,
right.
then the window wouldn't open back up again according to these projections until the year 2020. But if we had even a smaller
Lower
bond
amount.
issue,
It
that
might be
may
sooner.
move it. That may move it up a year.
A year,
Okay.
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 But I
But
just,
what kind of monies would be available at that point? I think that's what
Yes.
George and I are both kind of
Jay,
wondering.
you have to speak into your mic. I'm
I
sorry.
apologize. But
okay.
what kind of money would be available when we're talking 2018 to do anything further?
Well, RJ ran a table using 3 different scenarios. One of them was spending 40 million, right?
Recently, 2 schedules.
Right.
One was 40 million in 2012 and 20 million in 2020, because that was the
Right.
soonest
That you
additional
could
funds
get
would
more
be-
money.
And similarly, I did on 50 million in 2012, and still 2020 until additional 10 million could be bonded, according to the current statute and according to the projected taxable value growth that we've currently been using.
Right. I just want to make one quick statement before we go further. And I think, I'm not sure what you meant by this, George, but I just want to comment on a couple of the things that you said, specifically with respect to the numbers keep changing. Because I think that these are really, really complicated topics that I, on a daily basis, learn more about, and I sleep and eat them. According to my husband, that's all I think about anymore. So I just want to say that my understanding is that we have been working steadily with a goalpost of this is the maximum that you could bond according to the current taxable values for February 28th, 2012. The numbers keep changing that Mr. Brookover referred to. I'm not sure what he meant. My interpretation of the changing numbers, then I'd like him to let me know if that's what he meant. My interpretation of the changing numbers is that we have asked as a board on several different times for our architects and our construction folks to give us different scenarios, and we have adapted the projections of how much we could bond based on analyses from the experts, from the Ingham County Treasurer, from the assessor in East Lansing and Meridian Township, because we felt that that was the wise thing to do. We originally thought it would be a decline of 3.7. If the experts are telling us it's going to be more significant, then the prudent thing to do is to adjust that number. Is that, George, are those the numbers?
The numbers I was referring to is the cost estimates for the individual schools and the actual construction cost. And I keep hearing different numbers. I think one time we were here and the gentleman from Clark was here, and I made a promise to us about some kind of figure we were at that point in time, and now I have something that I got before the meeting which has some other numbers. I haven't had a chance to look at it and see what it compares to because I just got it as the meeting was starting. So I'm not trying to.
Well, I think it lends.
Excuse me, let me just finish. I'm not trying to cast aspersions. I'm just saying I have trouble getting getting my arms around specific numbers. And when we're talking $62 million, as I've said to the board before, I have to paraphrase Everett Dirksen, you know? $62 million here, $62 million there, pretty soon you're talking real money.
Yeah, I understand that, George, but I think that when you say things like you just said, I think that it's meaningful to people, and I guess I would have to say that I object. I object because I believe that there have been consistent requests from the board to receive different proposals from our construction folks, from our architects, for different projects, for different configurations, for different scopes. The numbers that you got today was a result of Dr. Chapin and myself and others on the board saying, hey, we really are hearing from the community that this project is too costly. Can you please sharpen your pencils and see if you can come back to us with a lower cost?
And see, I'm not going to get into debate with you. I don't want to get into critiques of the board or the superintendent or anybody else. I'm not doing that tonight. But you just said something that was very significant to me. You just said the numbers I got tonight were at the request of you and some board members to present numbers because, quote, people in the community, end quote, were telling you that they objected to the amount of the thing. Rima, that's the first time I heard that.
No, it's not.
No, excuse me. That's the first time I heard that somebody on the board was requesting additional numbers from Dr. Chapin or these gentlemen that they were going to present tonight.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I told you about it Tuesday, but whatever.
And also, we sat in the Finance Committee meeting.
We
and
talked about it at the Finance Committee meeting that you
and went-
attended a portion of.
and
Excuse
went
me,
through
can,
various
I'd
scenarios.
like to stay on the topic if we can. I think that that's very, very important. And I do have a few questions. If I'm understanding you correctly, if we were to do something more in the neighborhood of 18 million at this time, when our capacity is higher, we have a greater base to spread that on, and that would be paid off more quickly than if we were to do 18 million in May, if we just took them separately, if I understand what you're talking about. I have a little trouble, but I used to be a numbers person a long time ago, how when we dropped from, somebody said 3.7% negative, I thought that the next numbers were based on a -5, that we go from a $62 million bonding capacity, we dropped 45% plus in terms of bonding capacity. I have a hard time seeing how that works, but I'm not questioning that. You don't have to justify that tonight, but I want you to know that that's sort of a little hard for me to swallow, but I'll accept it, because you know what you're doing and I don't have a clue. But that's a terrific drop. But if I hear you correctly, if we did 18 million in what am I thinking, February, that is certainly going to be paid off more rapidly than 18 million we might put before the voters after May. And that you're saying that our capacity, because something happens in our ability to go back to the bond market, which is good to know, and I don't need to understand all the fine parts of that, something happens, that would mean that if we did this, what Mr. Percover had proposed, and if those numbers were accurate, then in 2018, we would have the capacity to go back for another 18 million. Am I understanding that correctly? Because that would be 6 years after the February vote, if we were to do that in February and get approval.
I would have to do another set of schedules to show this, and I'm not sure if it would be as 18 million in 2018 or 18 million in 2019. I'd have to run the schedules to determine that.
Okay.
It's all based on the current statute, which has a strong emphasis on the 5-year average growth. For state-qualified bonds, the most that we can use in the annual change in taxable value for the next 5 years can be up to the current 5-year average at the time that the bonds are issued, and for beyond 5 years, the lesser of 3% or the 5-year average.
Oh, okay.
And with the February vote, we can issue the bonds before the new taxable value becomes official. So we can use the current 5-year average. With the May vote, we have to use an estimate for the 2012 annual change in taxable value and calculate a new 5-year average based on that. And for the next few years, because hopefully we're being somewhat conservative in our estimates, this 5-year average is going to go down.
Sure.
Because good years are falling off the 5-year average.
Sure.
And so that, I don't want to say it's window, but that's sort of what it is. According to the statute, it's created by that.
Okay.
Well, then it works in conjunction with the mandatory loan repayment date, which is a feature of the School Bond Loan Fund program that the district's participating in.
So, in fact, if the estimates that the Ingham County Treasurer and other assessors are giving us